Every mythology has a god that breaks things, and without them, the world literally can't exist. Tricksters aren't sidekicks. They're not comic relief. They're not the villain's chaotic cousin. They're the hinge. The one thing standing between absolute order and total chaos. And they're the only figures in their pantheons allowed to move freely between both. Loki walks between gods and giants. Anansi spins webs connecting sky and earth. Coyote slips between animal and human, sacred and profane. Elegba stands at every crossroads, every threshold, every doorway between what was and what's coming. Different continents. Different languages. Same cosmic job description. Because here's what every culture understood: you need someone to cross boundaries. Someone to break rules. Someone to make change actually possible. The trickster isn't disrupting the system. They are the system's capacity to evolve. And if you go back far enough, to the oldest creation stories we have, you'll find something wild. Perfection never lasts. The pristine beginning, the golden age, the garden, it always gets interrupted. By a trickster. They steal fire, they open the forbidden box, they ask the question nobody was supposed to ask. And yeah, it brings suffering into the world. But it also brings movement. Agency. Time itself. Because perfection is static. Sterile. Dead. The trickster breaks the glass case and lets the world actually live. Here's the thing about Loki that Marvel absolutely will not tell you. Norse mythology doesn't function without him. He's not the villain. He's the mechanism. The gods need him the way a forest needs fire, not in spite of the destruction, but because of it. Yes, he kills Balder. Yes, that murder is the first domino that ends the world. But here's where it gets wild. That's not corruption of the system. That's the system working exactly as designed. Ragnarok isn't a bug in Norse cosmology, it's the feature. The world has to end so a new one can be born from the ashes, and Loki is the hand that strikes the match. He doesn't break the cycle. He is the cycle. And the gods know this, which makes what they do to him even more horrifying. They chain him in a cave deep under the earth with a serpent suspended above his face, venom dripping onto his skin for eternity. His wife Sigyn catches it in a bowl, but when she has to empty it, the poison hits him and he writhes in agony. Those convulsions? That's what causes earthquakes. Even bound, even punished, even suffering, he's still reshaping reality. You can't contain the force that makes worlds. You can only decide whether you're brave enough to let it do its work. Anansi is a spider, which sounds almost cute until you realize what he actually did. This West African god didn't just collect stories or inspire them, he bought them. All of them. Every story that exists belongs to Anansi because he paid the sky god's price, and that price was designed to be impossible. The sky god wanted him humiliated, wanted him to fail. He demanded Anansi capture the python, the leopard, the hornets, the fairy, creatures that could kill him in a heartbeat. And Anansi did it anyway. Through cunning, through wit, through making the powerful look like fools. He owns narrative itself now. Not metaphorically. He literally holds the box that contains how humans make meaning. When enslaved Africans were torn from their homelands and carried across the Middle Passage, they brought Anansi with them. Because of course they did. He's the God you need when you have no power except your mind. When the system is rigged and survival means outsmarting people who own your body but can't own your thoughts. Anansi isn't just resistance. He's the proof that the powerless can win by changing the story. And here's what makes him dangerous. He doesn't answer to anyone anymore. The trickster owns the narrative, which means he decides what's true, what's remembered, what gets told. Reality bends around him because he controls the only thing that actually matters: how we explain the world to ourselves. Coyote doesn't care about your dignity. Across hundreds of indigenous nations, from the Pacific Northwest to the Southwest deserts, he's the one who steals fire because he's hungry and wants to cook something. He releases death into the world because he got bored or horny or couldn't follow simple instructions. He scatters the stars across the sky because he tripped. The world as we know it, full of color, chaos, heartbreak, beauty, exists because Coyote couldn't sit still. And here's the thing, that's not a bug in the system. That's the whole point. Those mistakes, those appetites, that cosmic clumsiness, they're how life becomes worth living. A perfect world is a sterile world. Coyote brings the grit, the variety, the difficulty that makes existence pulse instead of just out-exist. He's creator and destroyer in the same breath. Sacred clown and holy fool. The cultures that built entire cosmologies around him understood something the post-Christian West spent centuries forgetting: that the divine doesn't have to be pure to be powerful. That sometimes wisdom wears the mask of the idiot. That the boundary between sacred and profane is a lot thinner than we pretend. Coyote lives in that threshold, and is laughing at anyone who thinks they can keep those categories separate. Here's the thing about Elegba that breaks people's brains. He's not one of the most powerful gods in the Yoruba pantheon. He's the gatekeeper, which means he's functionally more powerful than all of them combined. Every crossroads, every doorway, every threshold where one thing becomes another, that's his domain. And no prayer, no offering, no communication reaches any other deity without passing through him first. He is the cosmic IT department, the divine switchboard operator. You want to talk to the gods? You go through Elegba. There is no other line. And he decides if your call goes through. What makes it worse, or better, depending on how you feel about paradox, is that Elegba is simultaneously a child and an ancient man. The beginning and the end of every path, existing at both points at once. He holds Ace, the fundamental power that makes things happen in the universe. Not good things or bad things. Just things. Motion. Change. Reality actually occurring instead of staying theoretical. Which is exactly why Christianity tried to paint him as the devil when they encountered him. Because a God who doesn't operate on good versus evil, who exists in the spaces between categories, who literally cannot be moralized, that shatters the entire framework. So they demonized him. Literally. Called him Satan and hoped people would stop leaving offerings at the crossroads. Spoiler, they didn't. Because you can't lock a door that was never meant to close. Every time you've broken a rule that needed breaking, that's trickster energy. Every time you've questioned authority that deserved questioning, laughed at something sacred that had gone rotten, refused to play along with a system that stopped making sense, you were channeling Loki, Anansi, Coyote, Elegba. You just didn't know their names yet. Here's what happens when cultures exile the trickster. They become rigid, fundamentalist, fragile. They shatter instead of bend because they've lost the guard of adaptation. They forget that survival isn't about holding the line, it's about knowing when to cross it. The trickster doesn't show up to destroy your foundation. He shows up when your foundation has already cracked, and you're pretending it hasn't. He makes you look at the fracture. He makes you laugh at how much energy you've spent holding together something that wants to break open into something new. The trickster isn't asking you to burn it all down. He's asking you to remember that the cracks are where the light gets in. And sometimes you have to be the crack, the disruptor, the question no one wants to hear, the laugh that breaks the spell of seriousness we mistake for truth. The trickster is the crack in the cosmic egg, the fault line where new worlds split open, and you've been calling that chaos wrong your whole life. Follow Blackfire Atelier. I'll see you in the shadows.